Rachel's Miraculous Journey, Discovering Divine Love and Transforming Faith Amid 7 Years of Wait. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, in the land of Haran, Rachel, the beloved daughter of Laban, captured the hearts of all who beheld her. Her beauty was as radiant as the first light of dawn, and her grace was admired throughout the region. Yet, as she navigated the complexities of a society that measured a woman's worth through childbearing, a profound yearning filled her heart, a longing for companionship, for the love of a husband, and for a family of her own. As Rachel lived under the watchful eyes of her father, she sensed a stirring within her spirit, an anticipation that something divine was on the horizon. Little did she know that her life was about to intersect with that of her cousin Jacob, whose arrival in Haran would change everything. When Jacob laid eyes upon Rachel at the well, a spark ignited, a flame of promise intertwined with the fabric of destiny. Determined to win Rachel's heart, Jacob boldly pledged 7 years of labor to Laban, who welcomed him into his household. With each day that passed, he labored diligently, driven by the singular vision of Rachel at his side. However, the night that should have crowned their union transformed into a dark betrayal, cloaked under the veil of deception. Laban, shrouded in cunning, placed Leah, Rachel's elder sister, in Jacob's arms instead of Rachel. As the dawn's light broke, so did Rachel's heart, shattering her dreams. Days turned into months, and Rachel's pain deepened with each child Leah bore, a constant reminder of her own barrenness. Devastation loomed over her, overwhelming her spirit as she turned her gaze toward the heavens in both prayer and despair. Was her worth defined solely by not being able to bear children? Unanswered questions and quiet moments of anguish circled her soul, as Rachel wrestled with her identity in a world so keen on numerical success. Yet even in her seemingly infinite waiting, the threads of divine purpose began to weave their way through the tapestry of Rachel's life. Jacob remained steadfast in his love, and Rachel, refusing to succumb to her heart's torment, urged him to labor another 7 years for her hand. From that moment, hope stirred anew amidst her trials. In an act of desperation, Rachel gifted her handmaid Bilhah to Jacob, yearning to experience motherhood through Bilhah's children. As Jacob embraced this new chapter, the envy within Rachel only festered, overshadowing the joyous arrivals of each of Leah's sons. With each birth came a bittersweet reminder of her longing, a gnawing jealousy that dug into her heart. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the years passed, Rachel's prayers ascended to the heavens, a mixture of pleading and hope. She felt the weight of the world pressing down, yet buried deep within her, the promise of God whispered in the stillness. Could it be that her identity transcended her ability to bear children? Would she, against all odds, find a place in God's divine plan? Finally, the moment arrived, and as a sigh of relief escaped her lips, Rachel conceived, bringing forth her long-anticipated son, Joseph. The child represented hope, a realization of her dreams and a promise for the future. Yet uncertainties lingered. Could this child fulfill the void in her heart? As Rachel embraced the miracle in her arms, she stood on the threshold of a transformative journey, ready to nurture not just a son, but the promise of a lineage destined for greatness, still in search of divine clarity in the unfolding mystery ahead. As Rachel cradled the newborn Joseph in her arms, her heart swelled with both joy and trepidation. This child was not merely a gift, he was a symbol of God's unwavering faithfulness. Yet, as she looked into the eyes of her son, Rachel felt the echo of her prior anguish, her desperation to be seen, to be known beyond the shadows of comparison with Leah. In the days that followed, her spirit wrestled with emotions only a mother could understand. Rachel's heart overflowed with love for Joseph, but held tightly to remnants of envy toward Leah. Each new day was a delicate dance of joy and pain, as she relished the laughter of her son while grappling with Leah's continued fertility. For the mantle of motherhood, Rachel knew, was laden with both triumph and trials. Meanwhile, Jacob remained vigilant and steadfast, navigating the turmoil within his family. He loved Rachel dearly, yet he could not escape the weight of responsibility towards Leah and her sons. At times he stood silent, pondering the unfolding of God's plan, a plan veiled in mystery yet woven into the tapestry of their lives. One day, as the sun began to splay its golden light across the hills, Rachel attended to Joseph, who gurgled with joyful wonder. She worried not only for his future but also for her place in the greater design. Was Joseph merely a momentary relief from her suffering, or was he the herald of a new dawn? In the stillness of her thoughts, she heard a whisper, a divine promise that cracked the wall of her uncertainty. "Your son shall be a dreamer, and through him, many shall be delivered." Rachel believed, yet doubt crept in at times, whispering questions in the quiet corners of her heart. How could a child, born into such complexity, lead to deliverance? Was God truly with her? God's plans continued to unfold as the seasons changed. Leah's sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, thrived under Jacob's care, each child born not only into a growing family but marked with purpose. With every new birth, Rachel felt the pang of her own aching void, yet Jacob's steadfast love illuminated her heart, reminding her that God's favor was not measured by the number of children a woman bore but by the depths of love shared within the family. And so, in a moment of deep resolve, Rachel took a bold step forward. Inspired by the Spirit, she called upon Jacob and said, "Give me a child, or else I die. I can no longer bear the weight of this longing." Her desperation was palpable, echoed in the depths of her soul. Jacob, stirred by her pleas, responded with both love and frustration. "Am I in the place of God, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb?" In that moment, she knew this was not merely a clash between longing and reality. It was an invitation into deeper faith. Rachel seized the moment, and entreated God fervently. "O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look upon the affliction of thy servant and remember me, and not forget thy maidservant, I will dedicate my child to you." Rachel's prayer reached the heavens, transformed by faith. And in divine silence, the promise lingered, as God's hand moved close. Yet little did Rachel know, this was but the beginning of an extraordinary journey. For even now, as her heart beat with the rhythm of hope, a greater plan was brewing in the heavens, a plan that would see not only the birth of more sons but the unfolding of history itself, leading to the redemption of many. But what awaited Rachel, entwined with her children's destinies, would soon reveal a profound truth, one that would echo through generations and bring forth salvation to nations yet unseen. In the fullness of time, God heeded Rachel's cries and remembered her affliction. As the moon brightened the night skies, a warmth kindled within her heart, and she felt a stirring deep inside her womb. With trembling hands she sensed the divine purpose coalescing into life. She sought the Lord, her heart swelling with expectation, declaring, "O God, you have seen my sorrow, and you have answered my prayer." As the weeks passed, Rachel bore witness to her pregnancy, her spirit lifted by the promise of new life. However, the shadows of the past still loomed large. Each time Leah's sons danced about the tent, her heart bore the weight of comparison. "Why must the world see me through the eyes of another?" Rachel whispered into the night, battling the inner turmoil of jealousy that sought to strangle her joy. Meanwhile, Jacob, wary of the strains within his family, attempted to navigate the tempest of emotions. He encouraged Rachel, seeking to reassure her of his love and commitment. "The Lord has granted you this gift, beloved," he would say, looking into her eyes with tenderness. "Trust in His timing and His purpose." Yet the days stretched into months, and Rachel grew weary of waiting. The longings of her heart echoed in the stillness of night, echoing the prayers she had poured out before the Lord. She spoke to her unborn child, "My beloved, you shall be a beacon of hope. You shall know the promise of God." Then, as the sun cast its golden rays over the land, Rachel felt the familiar pangs of labor. The time had come. She called for Jacob, her spirit ablaze with anticipation. "Bring forth the midwives, my husband, for my heart is ready." The women gathered, their hearts filled with hope and trepidation. As Rachel labored, cries of pain and moments of resolve intertwined. In the throes of childbirth, she grasped hold of God's mercy, her lips whispering promises and prayers. "O Lord, do not forsake me now!" At last, the cry of a newborn shattered the air, an echoing herald of new beginnings. "God has taken away my shame!" Rachel exclaimed, as she embraced her second son. She named him Benjamin, saying, "For I have fought with my sister and prevailed." The weight of rivalry began to lift, unfurling into newfound grace. As the days turned to years, the boy grew strong, a reminder of divine faithfulness amidst trials. Joseph thrived beside Benjamin, the bond between the two brothers becoming a tapestry of love woven through the complexities of their family. The household of Jacob swelled as Rachel's heart brimmed with pride. Though Leah's sons multiplied, Rachel saw the purpose in God's unfolding plan. Yet in the backdrop of this familial tapestry, conflict simmered. Jacob's affection toward Rachel and her children stirred discontent among the others, leading to whispers and dissent among the wives. God's design, however, was broader than Rachel could comprehend. Unbeknownst to her, this very family would soon face the trials that would separate them, yet unite them under God's sovereign hand. One twilight evening, as Rachel observed Joseph and Benjamin playing in the field, a profound thought struck her. Had God chosen her sons for a destiny bound by greatness? A holy longing filled her heart, as she contemplated the legacy they would carry. In that sacred moment, Rachel sensed a whisper in the winds echoing divine assurance. "I will make of you a great nation. Through you, all the earth will be blessed." Little did she know, the very trials they would face would form the crucible by which her sons would rise, leading to a future laden with providence. Thus, as Rachel gazed into the horizon, hope intertwined with mystery. For she could not yet see the expanse of God's great design, one that would echo through generations, a divine unfolding that would shape the course of history before her very eyes. As the sun rose over the tents of Jacob, a palpable tension filled the air like the smell of rain before a storm. Rachel, once radiant with the joy of new motherhood, now bore a look of deep contemplation. The laughter of Joseph and Benjamin rang out like music woven with both joy and strain. Yet, her heart was heavy, for she sensed the shadows of strife lurking within her home. Days turned into weeks, and echoing heartbeats blended with restless whispers. Rachel, feeding her sons, often found her eyes drawn to Leah's boys, their playful shouts a reminder of her place in this woven fabric of family, and the deeper rift that still lay beneath. "Why must contention mar our joy?" she often cried within her heart, her spirit yearning for peace. As the seasons passed, Jacob's affection toward Rachel did little to quell the growing discord. Leah, her heart aching in solitude, found solace in the strength of her own sons. With each passing day, Rachel bore witness to the unspoken competition that festered within their hearts, praying fervently for unity. "O God, give me wisdom to navigate these trials," she implored. One bleary morning, as Jacob returned from the fields, he sensed the dread of division hanging in the air. With eyes full of compassion, he sought Rachel apart from the others, that he might bring forth comfort. "Beloved, remember how our journey began. The Lord has not forgotten us," he spoke, wrapping her in his embrace. Yet uncertainty lingered as she replied, "But what shall we do with our differences? The weight of our past haunts us still." In a moment of clarity, the Lord filled Rachel's heart with a promise she had not yet fully embraced. Through the bitterness and strife, a vision of divine destiny began to unfold. "I will make of your sons a symbol of hope," she felt the Spirit surge within her, guiding her heart to trust in God's intricate plan. In the silence that followed, Rachel prayed earnestly, interceding for her children, beseeching the Lord to mold their paths. "And as you molded me, O Lord, allow me to see the greatness you have for them. Protect their hearts from envy and strife." Meanwhile, afar in the land of Canaan, the heart of Jacob continued to be stirred by dreams, visions woven by God's hand. One fateful night, Jacob dreamed of a ladder stretching into heaven, with angels ascending and descending, a holy communication bridging earth and eternity. "Fear not, for I am with you," echoed in his spirit, reminding him of God's covenant promise. Inspired, he arose the next day with renewed fervor to ensure his household was united under one vision. Back in the tents, A day of reckoning loomed as the climate of rivalry reached its zenith. Rachel and Leah, standing amidst the laughter of their children, eyed each other in a moment of tumultuous silence, both recognizing the urgent need for reconciliation. "Shall we not allow our hearts to be unified as our families grow?" Rachel finally spoke, her voice steady and filled with resolve. "Indeed," Leah replied, her heart softening. An unexpected warmth blossomed between them, echoing the very promise God had given them: unity through His grace. Days turned into weeks of sowing understanding as Rachel and Leah labored side by side, investing lives into the raising of their sons, each one growing strong in heart and spirit. The wounds of their past began to heal, showing signs of new life and faith as they realized that God's design was more profound than their strife. In the quietude of the night, Rachel pondered the unfolding story. She understood that trials were often the forge by which faith was strengthened. "What may seem like chaos is merely part of your glorious mosaic, O Lord," she thought, her heart swelling with hope. Yet, as Rachel watched the moonlight dance upon the tents, the shadow of God's divine plan lingered, seemingly just beyond her grasp. Unbeknownst to her, great trials were yet to come, trials that would not only test their faith, but ultimately lead to the very salvation of many. The depth of God's tapestry of grace was just beginning to reveal itself, leaving Rachel to wonder what could possibly follow this turning of hearts. In divine mystery, she knew that God's story was far from finished, each thread of their lives entwined in His sovereign will, preparing for revelations that echoed through the heavens. As the dawn broke once more over the encampment, the sun's light painted the desert in hues of gold, and an expectant hush came over the tents of Jacob. Rachel, having been woven into a delicate web of insight and prayer, felt the stirring in her spirit, a whisper that something profound was at hand. With her heart aligned to the promise from the Almighty, she resolved to seek the Lord's guidance anew. Amidst the laughter of her sons, Rachel's thoughts turned inward, reflecting on the miraculous journey they were all on. She knew the stories the elders told of God's faithfulness, yet she yearned for a personal encounter with the divine that would further strengthen her family. "Father, I beseech you," she prayed, "reveal to me your purpose amidst this tapestry of life, for I long to see it in full." Meanwhile, Jacob, driven by visions from God, felt inexplicable urgency within him. "Gather my family, for I sense a shift in the air," he declared, calling Leah and Rachel to him, their sons encircling them with curious eyes. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation as Jacob spoke with passion. "In the shadow of our past, let us look forward, for the Lord has promised to bless our lineage and make us numerous." Leah stood beside him, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride and apprehension. The names of her sons, the warriors of her womb, echoed in her ears. "May the Lord strengthen the bonds of our family," she added, her voice laced with hope. Day turned to night, and the stars twinkled like beacons of hope in the vast sky. As the moon cast its ethereal glow, the tendrils of familial love wrapped delicately around their hearts, each moment more tender than the last. In this setting, Rachel felt a stirring amongst her sons, a unity burgeoning where once there was rivalry. "Come, dear ones," she called, her heart warmed, "let us pray together, ask the Lord for protection and wisdom as we navigate our lives beneath His gaze." And so together they knelt in the soft desert sand, their hands intertwined, a circle of strength, a visual testament of divine grace. As they prayed, Rachel felt a strange serenity envelop the group, a divine presence confirming their unity. In that sacred space, visions flitted through Rachel's mind, a future filled with promise, a journey through trials leading to greater purpose. It was all woven in the divine will of God, a path lit by the light of His love. But the peace was short-lived, for as dawn broke upon another day, unexpected news arrived from the distant lands of their father, Isaac. A messenger approached, breathless and with urgency in his voice. "The house of Esau has risen against us," he proclaimed, his eyes widening with the weight of his proclamation. "They march upon your valley, seeking to take what is yours." A chill swept across Jacob, Leah, and Rachel, the joy of the previous evening crumbling under the weight of this bitter reality. Yet deep within Rachel, a flame of faith ignited. "We cannot and will not fall into despair," she said firmly, her voice steady against the fear that threatened to ensnare them. for our God is with us, and his plan is not yet fulfilled. With resolute hearts, they gathered their possessions and prepared to defend their family. They prayed earnestly, their voices mingling with desperation and hope, invoking the promises of God. "You are our shield and our refuge," Jacob proclaimed. "The God of Abraham and Isaac, hear our cries." In that moment of collective prayer, even amidst rising tensions, the darkness began to lift. Rachel felt a renewed vision rise within her, deeper than mere survival. It was a call to trust in the unfolding of God's providence. She sensed that within this imminent trial lay the seeds of an even greater revelation. What dawned was a mystery yet hidden, the deliverance that God was orchestrating not only for Jacob's house but for nations beyond, bringing a trembling upon the earth and stirring hearts to follow him. As they looked toward the horizon, Rachel pondered what salvation might be born from our enduring faith. And so they stood against the trials. Ahead, casting their hopes upon the Almighty, drawn toward an unknown but glorious destiny, reality swirling in a divine ballet that would shape not just their lives, but the very fabric of history itself. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the family's resolve was put to the test. Jacob stood at the forefront of his encampment, a father and leader bearing the weight of impending conflict. The tumult of his heart mirrored the great mountain of a decision that lay before him. "What must I do, Lord?" he pleaded silently, striving to discern the way ahead. The sound of horses' hooves echoed in the distance, a reminder of their adversaries drawing closer. In this moment of uncertainty, Jacob called forth his sons, those whom he had so fervently prayed over. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, along with Rachel's sons, Dan and Naphtali, gathered near, their youthful vigor overshadowed by concern. "We must stand united as one," Jacob commanded. "Each of you has been blessed by the God of my fathers, and it is with that blessing we shall confront Esau." The air thickened with anticipation, for the sons felt the stirring of something greater, a legacy of faith handed down through generations, a promise that could not be dimmed by fear. In stepped Rachel, her face a mixture of determination and maternal strength. "Let us give our adversary reason to pause," she suggested, her voice steady. "For by offering a gift, perhaps we can soften the edge of his heart." Her words were weighed carefully like gold resting on a scale, and they resonated with Jacob. So the family gathered their finest livestock, goats, lambs, and treasures among their possessions and prepared to send them ahead as a peace offering, a gesture steeped in reconciliation. "May these gifts speak of our humility and our desire for peace," Jacob declared. With faith as their compass, they divided into groups, their hearts joined in a common resolve. Jacob led the first caravan, laden with gifts, while Rachel and the others remained behind, seeking protection in fervent prayer. Night enveloped the encampment once again, wrapping their hearts in the warmth of divine love. In the quiet dark, Rachel wrestled with God, imploring for her family's safety. "O God of Abraham, hear my cries. Thy promises have followed us, but darkness seems to loom," she whispered into the stillness. Her heart echoed the fears of imminent strife, yet she clung to faith that the Almighty would bestow upon them grace. As stars glittered above, the stillness shattered suddenly with angelic visitation. The messenger of the Lord appeared before Jacob in the form of a man, igniting Jacob's wrestling spirit anew. "What is your name?" the figure queried, and Jacob replied, "Jacob, the supplanter." "Your name shall be no longer Jacob, but Israel," declared the angelic voice, "for you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed." With that, a blessing was wrested from the heavens, imparting strength for the trial that awaited. The next morning, dawn broke with newfound determination. But as Jacob looked across the terrain, he saw Esau approach, accompanied by 400 men. A tremor coursed through Jacob, yet he willed his heart to peace, for he saw the gifts had preceded him. He bowed low before his brother in reverence, humbling himself in the sight of both God and man, and then, a miraculous turning unfolded. Esau, moved by the offerings, rushed forward, embracing Jacob with tears of reconciliation. "I have enough, my brother. The past is buried beneath the grace we share in this moment," he exclaimed, allowing their brotherhood to flourish once more. Witness to this divine encounter, Rachel wept tears of joy, recognizing that what they feared became the cradle of restoration. The heart of God had been made manifest before them, demonstrating that forgiveness and grace always transcend the divisions of the past. But within Rachel's spirit stirred an awe-inspiring thought: was this not merely the fulfillment of a family's deliverance? Had not God orchestrated this event for greater purposes? As they rejoiced in unity, she sensed that the weight of prophecy still lay heavy in the air. What if this reconciliation bore the seeds of a blessed covenant, not just for Jacob but for the multitude of nations yet to come? As the sun shone upon them, a rich promise lingered. The aspirations of the Almighty were waiting, poised to unfold upon the earth, leading humanity toward a destiny entwined in love and divine favor. As the sun began its descent, casting hues of gold and crimson upon the land, the reunion of Jacob and Esau still reverberated within the hearts of the family. Their joy flowed like a river, for reconciliation had fractured the darkness that once threatened to consume them. Jacob, now known as Israel, stood mighty in faith, while Esau beamed with newfound grace, their past sins forgiven and deep bonds rekindled. But Rachel, surrounded by her children, felt a stirring in her heart that transcended the delight of the moment. Though peace adorned the encampment, her soul wrestled with a profound longing. "O God, grant me a son," she lamented inwardly, reflecting upon her years of waiting and her hope yet unfulfilled. With each passing day in their newfound unity, her prayers intensified. It was then that she remembered the promises given to her husband Jacob, whispers of generations yet to unfold, and she sought the Lord with fervor. She felt a sacred pull, a reminder that the covenant with Abraham had not merely rested in the talents of men but in the hand of the Almighty. One evening, as twilight settled and the camp was wrapped in silence, Rachel sought the stillness of the night. Kneeling at the edge of the campfire, she reached for the heavens. "Lord of hosts," she cried, "Thou knowest my desire. Let me not be forgotten. The world seeks to claim the lineage of your promise." Suddenly, the air shimmered with the divine presence, and the voice of the Lord resounded, filling her with awe. "Your cries have been heard, Rachel. The fruit of your womb shall be blessed, and from you shall rise a nation." Tears spilled from her eyes as she breathed in the weight of these words. A grace she had not known enveloped her, igniting within her a faith that surpassed her fears. The burden of years melted away, and she envisioned her children, not merely as offspring, but as vessels of promise, the continuation of God's covenant through Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob, too, sensed a shift as he settled by the fire, pondering the significance of their reunion with Esau. His heart swelled with gratitude for God's mercy. Yet, he felt an unshakable urging to embrace the depths of their destiny. "What shall I do, Lord?" he asked. "Reveal to me the path that lies ahead." In a vision, the Lord appeared before him, a flowing light illuminating the night around. "From you, Israel, shall arise many nations, the 12 tribes of Israel. But greater still is the promise of a Savior, who shall bring salvation to all of mankind. Hold fast to your legacy, for it shall echo through the ages." Awakened from his vision, Jacob felt the weight of the Almighty upon him. He turned to Rachel, who was still in prayer, and he marveled at her unwavering faith amidst her longing. "I shall call upon the Lord in your name, for his promises shall not falter," he vowed, and knelt beside her, united in prayer, seeking the God of their fathers. Days stretched into weeks as they forged a new life, bonds of kinship strengthening under the canopy of grace. Each morning, Rachel's hope blossomed anew, and her children grew in wisdom and strength. The couple whispered about their future, building dreams upon the firm foundation of God's promise. But as the shadows of uncertainty lingered, Rachel pondered what awaited beyond their current joy. She clasped her hands over her heart, feeling the pulse of destiny weaving its thread through her life. "Is there more, O Lord?" she wondered with fervor, and the answer came, as the breeze carried whispers of God's eternal plans. "Yet unseen, the tapestry unfolds, for you shall bear a name that will rise in glory and touch the far reaches of the earth." Thus, the seed of divine promise, now sown in faith, awaited its appointed time, drawing closer to the culmination of God's sovereign plan. Little did they know that they stood at the dawn of an awakening, their story intertwining with the very fabric of history, leading toward a destiny radiant with divine purpose. As dawn broke over the encampment, the sky painted anew with hues of azure and gold, Rachel's heart beat with renewed fervor. The promise spoken unto her lingered sweetly upon her spirit, instilling within her a tenacity to press forward in faith. Yet, she felt an ache that spoke of deeper longings, a yearning intertwined with the weight of anticipation for the child she had yet to bear. Jacob rose at the break of day, feeling the call of his responsibilities as the leader of his household. He surveyed the camp, where his children played, their laughter mingling with the morning breeze, a sound sweeter than any earthly melody. "O Lord," he murmured, raising his hands towards heaven, "may my family walk in your ways and know the fullness of your blessing." Days rolled into months, and as seasons turned, so did the hearts within the camp. Rachel approached Leah, her sister, with a spirit of fellowship. "Sister, the years are but a fleeting shadow," Rachel began, her voice soft yet resolute. "Let us together seek the Lord's favor. Surely, our prayers shall rise as incense before him." Leah, who had felt the pangs of rivalry long enough, nodded in agreement. Their prayers intertwined as they sought the God of Abraham and Isaac. "May he open our wombs and hear our cries," Leah responded, her voice a blend of sincerity and hope, driven by the unity born of their whispered prayers. As Rachel continued in her pleas, she was consumed with visions of what her son would become. "What shall I name him?" she often wondered aloud in prayer. "Will he walk in the ways of our father Jacob, a man of faith, or shall he lead in ways yet unseen?" One night the stars danced brilliantly overhead, as Rachel lay upon the earth, the coolness of the soil grounding her in belief. There in the quietude, she felt the Lord near. "Trust in my design, Rachel," came the gentle whisper that enveloped her spirit, infusing her with hope. "Though you cannot see, the plans I have laid are rich with purpose." With each passing season, there bloomed a cultivated patience within Rachel's heart. Yet, beneath this faith, she felt the daunting shadows of barrenness tug at her. It was on one such day, while gathering water from the well, she met Bilhah, her maidservant. Reckoning with the providence of God, Rachel spoke, "Perhaps the Lord will grant me children through you, my handmaid. Let us present this to him, for our lineage must flourish." Bilhah, filled with the commitment of servitude and the joy of possibility, agreed. In that moment, Leah's eyes held a glimmer of understanding. She too would consider her maidservant's role in this unfolding story of their family. As weeks turned to months, Bilhah bore 2 sons for Rachel, Dan and Naphtali. "The Lord has adjudged me," Rachel proclaimed upon the birth of Dan, "and he has heard my voice." Yet still, a sacred ache remained within her. Then came a season when the family sought pasture beyond the familiar. They traveled to the land of their forebears, yearning to honor the covenant the Lord had made with Abraham. During this journey, Rachel's soul was heavy with a growing wonder. The Lord's promise still echoed with clarity, though her heart was burdened with the silent question, "When shall my time come, and what greater purpose lies ahead?" In the midst of this journey, where she felt both anticipation and trepidation, Rachel looked heavenward, the questions swirling like the dust of their journey. "How shall your promise come to fruition, O Lord? What of the nation I am to bear?" And the wind seemed to whisper back a divine reassurance, "My plans are perfect. Trust in my timing." Little did she know, this act of devotion would lead not just to her own birthright but would weave into the story of salvation that would ripple through time and eternity, echoing the divine plan set forth by the Almighty Himself. In her heart, she knew the tapestry across time was being stitched, but the fullness of God's sovereign plan remained cloaked in mystery, waiting to be unraveled at the appointed hour. As the sun dipped low upon the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the encampment, Jacob gathered his family around him, sensing a stirring within his spirit. "Hear me, beloved," he began, his voice steady but imbued with emotion. "Tonight we mark yet another year without a son from my beloved Rachel. But let us not lose heart. For surely the Lord has plans for us." Rachel, sitting beside him, felt the swell of emotions crash within her heart at the mention of her longings. She sought to hold fast to Jacob's words but wrestled with the weight of her heart. How many more seasons of longing must pass before joy would find her in the form of a child? Leah, her sister, looked upon her with compassion, understanding well the struggle of her heart. "You are the favored wife, Rachel," Leah murmured, reaching for her hand. We shall pray together once more, trusting that he who shut your womb can and will open it in his perfect timing. As night cloaked the camp, their voices became as one, ascending like the sweet aroma of incense. Together, they beseeched the Lord for his favor, igniting a resolute hope that had lain dormant. Hours turned to a sacred quiet as the moon sailed high, suspended in its vigil over them, echoing the promise of God. In the days that followed, Rachel found herself wandering amidst the fields, pondering her desires. She recalled the words spoken to her in prayer, the promised son, the future ministry of a great nation. O Lord, she wept softly among the swaying wheat, do not forsake me. Is there a greater plan beyond my understanding? In her spirit, she felt a tug, as if the heavens were aligning to draw near. It was on such an afternoon that Rachel dared to hope once more, prompted by an inner voice that spoke, "Prepare your heart, the time is near." As she returned to her tent, she whispered a fresh covenant with the Almighty. "I shall wait, Lord, for your promise is my anchor." Months turned, and one day, in the cool dawn before the sun breached the horizon, Rachel awakened with a sense of unsettling tumult within her. The skies mirrored the tempest of her spirit, and as she clutched her belly, a surge of warmth flooded her being. She knelt in reverence and prayer, beseeching the Lord, "Show me the way, O God, for you alone know the mysteries of life." Suddenly, a realization washed over her. What if her longings were not merely for her lineage but intertwined with the divine purpose of nations? What if, she thought, my child bears a name with echoes through generations? Later that evening, swelling with the energy of uncertainty and anticipation, she approached Jacob. "Husband," Rachel met his gaze bravely. "I believe our time has come. The Lord has heard our prayers." Jacob, eyes wide with wonder, took her in his embrace. "Then we shall prepare, beloved. Whether this be our child or a promise to come, we shall bring forth all in worship to the God who brings life." And so they resolved to enter into that sacred act once more, a covenant, a dance of faith upon the tapestry of God's providence. With each passing week since that moment, the tent was filled with the joyful melody of anticipation, yet still shadowed by uncertainty. Rachel's spirit soared and sank like the tides, believing yet battling doubt. Then came the day when a wave of life surged within her, and she knew this was the moment the Lord had promised. And as Rachel placed both hands upon her belly, she heard once more a comforting whisper through the winds, "The time has come for my promise to unfold." Yet, in the recesses of her heart lingered a question that spoke to the core of her very being. What greatness shall this child bring for Israel and for those who follow after? The pathways of destiny were entwined, a divine choreography unknown to her. Rachel understood God's sovereign purpose was not confined to her longing but echoed through all creation, preparing hearts for a revelation that would stretch far beyond her understanding. In the culmination of days, when the heavens aligned and purpose surged like a mighty river, Rachel stood on the threshold of her most fervent prayer. Wrapped in layers of anticipation and faith, she felt the undeniable stirring within, the promise drawing closer, a sweet crescendo of divine orchestration. As the sun painted the skies in brilliant shades of lavender and gold, Rachel, fervently aware of the new life growing within, sought the face of the Lord. "O great God of my fathers, I await your most cherished gift," she prayed, her heart racing with hope. In her spirit, the whispers of destiny echoed, assuring her that this child would traverse paths unknown, embroiled in God's purpose for generations to come. The time arrived, and the air brimmed with tension and promise. The midwives were summoned, and Rachel, radiant with anticipation, prepared for the sacred moment of bringing forth life. Yet, as the pangs of labor gripped her, an ominous shadow whispered in the corners of her mind, reminding her of the sorrows and struggles endured. From the depths of her heart, she prayed fervently, "Lord, may this child be a vessel of your covenant promises." With each contraction, Rachel felt the weight of her ancestors' prayers steeped in silence and supplication. The tent became a sacred sanctum, encased in the somber sound of her labored breaths, the world outside fading as she leaned into the grace of the moment. It was on this holy ground of transformation that Rachel cried out to God, "Please do not abandon my heart in this hour. I seek your hand, chart the course of my child, into the destiny you have laid." As the midwives attended diligently, a struggle unfolded, for Rachel's heart knew both the yearning and fear that being a mother entailed. The air became electric with spiritual resonance, and the realization struck her this child's arrival would hold significance beyond her imagining. In a pivotal moment of great intensity, after tumultuous labor, she breathed forth with all her might, and lo, the cry of a newborn filled the space, echoing like a declaration of hope into the night. "It is a son!" the midwives proclaimed, their voices mingled with joy. Yet, as Rachel embraced her child, her heart quivered beneath the weight of the moment. The fervent love surged through her being as she beheld Joseph, her eyes filled with awe. "O God, I have waited for this and much more. I shall call you Joseph, for you are a sign of my increase." Yet in that sacred moment, as joy mingled with disbelief, the truth of sacrifice penetrated deeply. Even in her joy, a pang of grief pierced her heart, for the struggles of motherhood intertwined with the soulful legacy she had yet to truly understand. In the hours that became days, as Joseph thrived, rumors of strife began to echo back within her tent, for competition lingered under the surface, and the warmth of her joy cast long shadows forward. Years turned, with Rachel bearing witness to the tapestry woven through Joseph's early childhood, handcrafted by divine design. The boy thrived amid familial tensions, a treasured vision of what had been hoped for, a future filled with promise and lineage. Rachel had not only gifted Jacob a son but unlocked the doors to greater miracles hidden further along their path. In quiet evenings, as stars hung majestically above, Rachel sought the Lord, each prayer stitched deeper into the fabric of her soul. "O God, your plans extend far beyond my sight, and I know you are preparing my child for leadership. Help me guide him in your ways," she implored. Through the years of struggle, peace, and strife, God's promises bore fruit. Jacob understood that within Joseph lay a destiny worthy of revelation, a future that would not only affect their family but indeed shake the foundations of the nations beyond. "God is weaving greatness through your lineage, Rachel," Jacob would oft remind her, drawing closer with every burden borne together. Yet, unbeknownst to her, it was the trials ahead that would sharpen her sons, particularly Joseph, who sat poised to uplift his family. Amidst ensuing darkness that would test their bonds. As their days glided onward, Rachel's heart soared with renewed prayers for her children. She did not need to know every outcome, but her faith grew as she saw God's hand at work. The hand that shaped the stars and the ground beneath their feet hovered over her family, transcending time and foreseeing generations to come. In a moment of stillness, Rachel found her voice unwavering. "O Lord, may my trust in you outshine the fleeting fears of the present. I receive your will. I am but a vessel for your glory." In the years that followed, Rachel became a matriarch. Her love expanded like the horizon, nurturing not just her beloved sons but something much larger, the legacy of God's faithfulness that would endure beyond her earthly time. And so it is written, Rachel transformed from a woman marked by longing into a powerful figure destined for greatness, the matriarch of a nation birthed through trials yet steeped in the promise of God. For in her cry for a son, Rachel's life journey became a sacred promise, a reflection of divine grace that would echo across history and draw countless souls into the love of the Almighty. Through her journey, we see that each longing brought forth a legacy laboring within their hearts and lives across the generations, deepening the resonance of faith and the hope of resurrection. As God's mighty hand continues to write each story that brings forth redemption into the world. Remember, friends, as you reflect upon this amazing story, God's promises always triumph over our trials. If this journey has inspired you, then I urge you, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm. Comment your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story impacted your faith. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's word, and remember, every action you take helps us reach more souls for Christ. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with those around you.